Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to talk about our Morris County Landlord Support Program. We have a few people here today that will talk a bit about some of the work that we've done to come to this point. Let me first introduce myself. I am Talitha Turner. I'll be the moderator here today. I am in AmeriCorps Vista, and I volunteer with Mental Health Association of Essex and Morris. Adequate housing is a fundamental human right. Human beings have the right to, live somewhere in security, peace, and dignity. I am a firm believer in the effort to eliminate homelessness, and I understand that at every level of eradicating this national crisis, that we will impact change in other areas as well. I am going to pass it over to Allie. Hi, Allie.
Hello, everyone. I'm Allie Wise. I'm the Chief Program Officer at Family Promise of Morris County. I've been in the field and with our agency and working with homelessness for 10 years, and I'm so excited to be here today working on this project.
Nice. And we're excited to have you, Allie, again. Thank you. And next we have Alicia. Hi, Alicia.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. My name is Alicia Alvarez. I am a community researcher with the Neighbors in Need project at Drew University. This project is near and dear to my heart because I am also a voucher recipient. I consider this an amazing opportunity to help find a solution to this issue and to help end the stigma that comes attached with having a voucher. I know firsthand the struggle that comes with finding adequate and affordable housing with a voucher here in Morris County.
Wow, thanks, Alicia.
And next I will have Aaliyah.
Hey, Aaliyah.
Good morning.
Hey.
My name is Aaliyah Spate, and I'm a real estate investor, and I own a general contracting company headquartered in Newark, New Jersey. We have managed over $2 million in residential and commercial building projects throughout the state. When I started the company, it was without expectation. However, I feel it is our duty to raise the standard for living in urban areas and housing for low-income families throughout New Jersey.
Awesome. Thank you, Aaliyah. And we're happy to have you. So Morris County, hello. We have a crisis, and it goes by the name of chronic homelessness. Morris County is ranked amongst the top wealthiest counties in New Jersey. The average household income in Morris County is $111,000 a year, a little more than that. The average household income in New Jersey is $79,000 a year. And in the nationwide, we're at about $60,000 a year. So as you can see, Morris County is almost twice the national household average income. In Morris County, to rent a two-bedroom on average is about $1,483. The hourly wage needed to afford a two-bedroom in Morris County is $28 an hour. And the minimum wage in New Jersey is a mere $12 an hour. So as you can see, two adults earning $12 an hour, the minimum wage in New Jersey, would not be able to afford a two-bedroom home in Morris County. Between 2013 and 2017, there was a 78% increase in chronic homelessness. In 4 years, there was a 78% increase in homelessness in Morris County. The Morris County Continuum of Care put forth a 10-year plan to end homelessness. In an effort to further explore the county's plan, a team of faculty and students from Drew University teamed up with 19 diverse stakeholders and housing agencies to include Family Promise, Mental Health Association of Essex and Morris, Monarch Housing, Morris County Housing Authority, just to name a few. And we also had the Atlantic Health System and Madison Baptist Church assist in this project. The idea is to create a network of community landlords that are willing to accept and participate in the homeless programs and organizations with the idea of decreasing or eventually eliminating homelessness in Morris County specifically. This is how we birthed the Neighbors in Need Landlord Support Program. William Baldwin once said, "A strong economy causes an increase in the demand for housing. The increased demand for housing drives real estate prices and rentals through the roof, and the affordable housing becomes completely inaccessible." I'm going to pass it over to Alicia, who will speak with us a bit on some of the research and the findings that the NIM conducted. Hi, Alicia.
Hi, Talitha. Thanks for having me, and thank you all for joining us. I'm really excited to share with you guys the research findings that led to the design of this awesome, innovative landlord incentive program. So in year one, we collected our data. We conducted surveys, focus groups, and interviews. We wanted to hear directly from the source what the issues are. In our survey findings that were sent out to the landlord's property owners, more than a third, 37% of the respondents had no experience with housing vouchers. For the respondents that had experience with housing vouchers, 64% said that the most common voucher that they seen was a Section 8 voucher. When asked if they were offered additional support from an agency, would they be more willing to accept a housing voucher? 31% said most definitely, and 23% said somewhat. That's more than 50%. Other supports identified by respondents as to what would be helpful to encouraging them to accept voucher recipients, 28% said that they would like to see better support in dealing with tenants, 24% said help with paperwork, and 20% said financial protection. When asked why would they be hesitant to rent to a voucher recipient, 69% said the tenant behavior, 54% said tenant substance abuse, and 51% said tenant payment. That's the portion that the tenant would pay, not the state. When asked to identify 3 benefits of renting to a voucher recipient, 71% said the guaranteed rent, 49% said helping someone in need, and 40% said minimal turnover housing vacancies. So we also conducted, like I said previously, focus groups and interviews. We had those with landlords, voucher recipients, and housing specialists. From the perspective of the landlords, there was a range of opinions about the vouchers. Some of the barriers that came up were not knowing about the different kinds of vouchers and how they work. They spoke about their negative experiences, whether they had them themselves or they heard of them from others. Concerns about their properties, any damages done by the voucher recipient, and so forth, and getting the rent on time. Some of the benefits that they did speak about was the guaranteed rent, and the permanent residents. They feel that they don't have as much turnover when it comes to having the voucher recipient in the unit. We also spoke to housing specialists and the voucher recipients, and they spoke to us about some of the barriers that they face. The low FMRs, the discrimination, the time constraints. When the voucher recipient is given a voucher, they usually have 60 days to find a unit and get approved for the unit from whoever is issuing the voucher. A lot of times that becomes really difficult, and there is some extensions, but it's really hard to find a unit here in Morris County within that time. Understanding the different vouchers, again, there's agencies that have vouchers. There's the Section 8 voucher from Morris County Housing Authority. So you have to understand that some of them have different constraints within themselves. Location of the unit. Finding units where there's transportation and so forth and so on, which also led to transportation as being one of the barriers. So a common theme throughout the data is that finding and keeping housing for the chronically homeless using vouchers relies heavily on developing a relationship and an honest communication with the property owners. So how do we know that this works? A review of the best practices across the United States demonstrates that landlord incentive programs are an effective strategy for mitigating homelessness. For example, in Richmond, Virginia, the nonprofit organization HOME works closely with landlords by providing brochures and information sessions on benefits for the voucher program. Home staff liaise between landlords and tenants if any conflicts develop. As a result of this program, HOME reported 73 families moved to low poverty neighborhoods in 2019, which is up from the 52 families that moved in 2017. Another example, in New York, the Westchester County Public Housing Authority administers a county-wide mobility counseling program serving families with children and landlords. This program connects tenants with brokers, assists with rental and lease terms, and facilitates a smooth process between tenants and landlords for the Housing Choice Voucher Program. In 2016, the program added an additional 285 landlords to their existing network. As these examples show, different approaches to housing stability based on their local context, they all share a landlord intervention with demonstrated evidence of effectiveness by combining some of the best practices employed in these areas. We have designed our own support service model for landlords renting to voucher tenants here in Morris County. Next, Ali will explain the Landlord Incentive Program. Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia. Thank you very much. Yes, next up is Ali. Jump right on in there.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited because I have the privilege of telling you all about the Landlord Support Program that the Drew University Action Team designed in response to this research. As Alicia explained, landlords in our study reported that they wanted more support for tenants, assistance with voucher paperwork, and financial protection. More specifically, they're looking for a better understanding of the voucher system, wanting to build a stronger relationship with their voucher tenants, and more support when needed with the housing agency or other challenges that arise during tenancy. Well, I'm excited to announce that this landlord support program addresses all of this feedback and then some. To start, a landlord liaison will be available as a point of contact for the landlords from the beginning of this partnership. As you can see on the timeline graphic, this starts with a formal orientation to the voucher system and extends to the facilitation of all voucher tenant paperwork required by the corresponding housing agency in order to achieve a successful lease-up. What's more, this landlord liaison has access to pre-screened voucher tenants in Morris County in order to select the next best fit for each landlord and voucher tenant partnership. Once a landlord and voucher tenant have been matched, the Landlord Support Program can provide the following incentives: the full payment of a realtor fee when applicable, pre-inspection support when needed. The landlord liaison can review the unit and request feedback and repairs from Habitat for Humanity in order to address any issues that may arise during the formal inspection. Adding this step can expedite the lease-up process and rent payments by avoiding a failed inspection altogether. Facilitation of obtaining a security deposit from a local Morris County agency. And once a lease-up has been achieved, the landlord and voucher tenant will each be informed about rent amount and payments for the lease duration. Landlords who have worked with voucher tenants in the past especially appreciate knowing that a significant portion of the monthly rent is guaranteed by the tenant's housing subsidy. At the completion of a successful lease-up, the landlord liaison introduces the voucher tenant to a housing case manager who is skilled in working with voucher tenants throughout the lease year. This can include supporting the tenant for housing-related needs that may arise or acting in partnership with the landlord liaison, all in an effort to be sure that the partnership between the landlord and voucher tenant is a successful one. At lease renewal, the landlord liaison provides support again to the landlord and voucher tenant in order to complete the lease renewal and annual inspection, assist with needed repairs, or a successful transition of tenancy. If everything I've explained so far sounds good, too good to be true, wait until you hear about these incentives. Participating landlords will be eligible to receive vacancy payments when their units are between tenancy. New partnering landlords are eligible to receive a sign-on bonus of up to $2,500 for agreeing to work with this program. And last but not least, if and when necessary between leasing tenants, participating landlords are eligible to receive a financial support for repairs incurred during tenancy. By now, I hope that you are as excited as I am. As you can see, we've taken our landlord feedback and Morris County research seriously. We have used it to directly inform the development of this unique and awesome Morris County program. Would you like to participate? I welcome any questions you may have about what I've covered or otherwise. Thank you so much for this opportunity. We're looking forward to new partnerships.
Wow, thank you. Thank you very much, Ali. This program sounds amazing. Wish I was a landlord in Morris County. This sounds like an awesome solution, right? And as Alicia shared with us, it's been done, right? We've shared examples of it being done in other states, other areas, into a success. So I think this is incredible that we were able to bring this to Morris County. So speaking of landlords, our next speaker is just that. She is a landlord and well-versed in some of the post-COVID type, I guess, conversations landlords are having right now. Welcome, Aaliyah. Hi, Aaliyah. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Hello. So, as a landlord now operating in the times of COVID, it's a pretty daunting during these times of uncertainty. Non payment of rent has been the biggest concern many landlords face. The decision makers involved in these rent relief negotiations cite an array of factors that dictate the landlord's willingness to negotiate, including the landlord tenant relationship and the financial position of the landlord. However, due to state and federal mandates, we are stuck between a rock and a hard place. The state issued on March 19th, 2020, Governor Phil Murphy issued an executive order which suspended evictions throughout the state. The federal order on December 27, 2020 has extended the Consolidated Appropriations Act preventing evictions until January 31st, 2021. While the state and federal eviction moratorium does not affect that rent is due, many tenants are still unable to pay rent. Some hard truths are in September 2020, over 480,000 New Jerseyans were at risk for evictions. This month, over 280,000 evictions alone were filed. There's a rent shortfall of about approximately $1.3 billion, and only $100 million in aid has been available. There are three different types of property owners: ones with no mortgage, a traditional mortgage, and private or hard money funding. Typically, the mortgage from traditional banks allow forbearance, leaving other landlords or property owners that fall in the no mortgage or private or hard money funding, relying on the city or state funding for relief, and there's just not enough money. Going forward, I strongly suggest revisiting your strategy on how you rent your apartments. The only landlords not completely suffering are those accepting Section 8 voucher tenants.
Thank you, Aaliyah. Thank you for bringing that in. So it sounds like everyone is pretty much on the same page. The issues from COVID are it doesn't make the issues that were there any less, right? So some of those issues, if anything, are greater. And to have this security with vouchers seems to be like the way to go, right? Would anyone like to add anything before we go? No, I did want to ask a little bit about some of the incentives. We know everyone gets really excited when we talk about money, right? Money, right? That's, the landlord, as Aaliyah explained before ending her part, is that landlords still have mortgages, right? Landlords still have mortgages that needs to be paid, and that's understandable. So with the incentives of the support program, there are some ways to really offset that pressure for the landlord. One being, correct, can you go through them again, Abby? I think it was, but we have a sign-on bonus. What were some of the financial offsets that the program would offer?
A sign-on bonus of up to $2,500. So this will be determined at lease-up based on funding availability and the size of the unit. Support with vacancy payments, which will help landlords between tenancy, and also assistance with the cost of repairs, which we know is stressful and a potential pain point for landlords between tenants. And we have a great partnership with Habitat for Humanity to incorporate that into this program's success.
Awesome. Awesome. And then I know, Alicia, you talked about it a bit when it comes to the voucher process, right? We touched a bit about the FMR, but the thing that struck, I don't know if odd is the right word, but we talked a little bit about that process for the actual tenant, and the amount of time that it takes, especially if a tenant was granted a voucher in Morris County. We shared how this tenant, who the state says is approved and qualified and are willing to help not, this individual not become homeless, and they're granted this voucher in Morris County. And did you say 60 days, almost, 2 months, and still can't find anywhere to live. And in many cases, if they cannot get this extension or get another voucher, is it safe to say that this individual may remain homeless? And if they were at the risk of homelessness before, not being able to have this voucher honored within that time period can push them over to official homeless status. Is that safe to say?
Absolutely. There is a large number of people who have lost their voucher. Unused vouchers here in Morris County is an issue because they cannot find a unit. So it's, people think that that's the magic solution is, oh,
Right.
here's your voucher. There has thankfully so been opportunities to give out vouchers, like I said before, through different programs. The biggest issue is finding units and having those unused vouchers. If the state grants money to give vouchers and they're not being used, they don't really see the fact that it's because there's no units available or we can't find a unit. They just see it as, oh, okay, well, next year we gave you 200,000. I don't know how much they give, but I'm
Right.
just saying 200,000. Well, then this year you didn't use half of those vouchers. We're going to give you 100. It's not that we don't need the vouchers. The vouchers are needed. We need units to go with those vouchers.
Right. And I appreciate you explaining that a little bit too, because I can remember having a conversation with someone about the program. And ideally, whenever there's some type of support, whenever we're trying to fix an issue, we ideally focus on the individual that's at risk, right? Or the individual that is facing the issue, right? In this case, it is likely to be that tenant. So when I'm sharing the landlord support program, immediately or initially, the reaction is, why are you helping the landlords, right? The tenant is who needs the help. So your explanation just now really helps answer that and helps folks understand that in helping the landlord, we are helping the tenant, right? And that's important, right? Because these facts are met. And then it brings me over to something that Aaliyah talked about, which is that personal responsibility that she took on as a landlord to know that she is a gatekeeper, that she is in a position where she can, contribute to eliminating homelessness by accepting these vouchers. Aaliyah, can you talk a little more about that? Because I was really happy that you mentioned that.
You want me to talk a little bit more about accepting the vouchers?
Right, just that pro, I guess, for like not just a pro in terms of it helping financially, but maybe that obligation as a landlord or that you gave yourself. But good
Um,
one.
I think that it's a win-win for the landlord and the tenant because especially in these times, we don't know how long COVID is going to remain, and to be able to be consistent, with these vouchers, those tenants are the only tenants right now that are consistently allowing us to pay our mortgage, pay our taxes, pay sewage, and maintain our properties. Um, a lot of the times, it's not that landlords don't want to work with tenants, but we have existing stable bills that have to be met. That regardless of COVID, they're not giving a forbearance, they're not giving a reprieve. Even our taxes, the taxes are now due. They are no longer extended, the forbearance.
Oh,
There are a lot of obstacles that we do face, but I think that accepting Section 8 tenants will allow for a stabilized income for landlords to kind of strategize how they plan their business, because essentially it is a business, but there's also
absolutely.
a moral compass aspect to it of giving back. Because if you're in a place or a position, um, I was reading some studies that throughout the country, tenants pay up to almost 150% of landlords' mortgages. So there's definitely a surplus, that if everyone gives a little, there's enough to take. So even in Morris County, and then it's also finding out about tax abatements, you know, fixing up the property through vacancy, partnering with Habitat Humanity. That saves a lot. So a lot of the times, landlords just don't know, or they're landlords and they don't run a business because there's a soft cost and a hard cost to everything. So those soft costs up front, you don't know how much it's going to cost to completely renovate, your unit, or how much allowing your unit to run vacant for 5 months because you couldn't get $2,500 versus you accepting 2,300 and allowing these other programs to kind of offset that $200, throughout the year. So I just think that the program is really good, and having a landlord liaison meet with the landlords, meet with the representatives, and really thoroughly explain the process to them and the business module. I think that it will allow for them to really open their doors to Section 8 tenants and overcome the stigma attached to it.
All right. Thank you for sharing that, Aaliyah. Those were interesting points. Those were great points. Any final thoughts or contributions anyone would like to make before we close out?
Yes, I can just go back to the sign-on bonus, and sometimes it might seem too good to be true. And I just want to acknowledge that this is, Alicia spoke about best practices across the country and how well this program works in other communities, and versions of it already work well in Morris County. And so what this says is bring it all together so that it's one program across the entire county. And our bonus is our gesture of good faith. This is us saying that we know this program works and we are ready to put our money where our mouth is. And so we're really excited to work with new landlords who may be skeptical and a little bit worried. That is what we are here and ready to do.
Nice, nice, nice. And it sounds like it clearly there was a lot of intent. The research was done and it was taken seriously and put into this program, which is great, right? Wish more things were that simple. You do the research, you hear the issues, and you just fix them or put in an effort to fix them. Right? So kudos to the NIN and all the wonderful folks come together for this project.
So I just wanted to piggyback off of what Ali had said previously, and Aaliyah. In the focus groups, that was a consent throughout the landlords that were affiliated with an agency already. They were the happy landlords. They were the landlords that were sitting there saying, "Oh, this is great. I don't have a problem. I love working with this organization. You're, I have an issue with the tenant. There's someone that I can speak with." So we listened to the landlords. We heard the property owners, and we're like, "Oh, okay. Happy landlord, more units, happy tenants." So this program was heard. The solutions, the incentives were directly from the mouths of the property owners and landlords. And, we know that there's an issue, and we dug deep. We heard the voices of the people that it was affecting, and we've created this wonderful program that I'm excited to launch and have the pilot for it. And, if this, like Ali said before, if this sounds good to you, join us in this partnership, help house some of these families that are in need right now. And just want to say thank you for joining us.
Yeah, it's great points, Alicia. Yeah, initially when you think about us solving an issue, you just think about the issues, right? But we went a step above and listen to what's working. And that's very important, especially, and I'm guessing Aaliyah would agree with me, but when dealing with landlords, and it's coming to, money, especially, you may not want to take a chance on something that someone just made up and said, let's try this. But we've having best practices and spoken to landlords that have happy relationships with their tenants, successful ones, and dubbed off to that. So I think that's very important to share. So thank you for bringing that to the table. And something else I would like to say before we go to, yes, we are telling about the program, about the pilot program, and encouraging landlords in Morris County that are interested in participating in the program or wanting to learn more about the program to look us up. You can reach us via our LinkedIn and Facebook, as well as our Instagram. And we will also like to hear from you if we didn't cover something, if there's an issue or if there's something that maybe you've experienced or have experienced on when it comes to the landlord voucher tenant relationship, share. We would love to hear. If you are a landlord in Morris County and you're experiencing more issues because of COVID, we would love to hear about those issues. And on the other end, if you are having a great relationship with your tenant in Morris County and you're a landlord. If you're a landlord in Morris County, check us out. Let's talk. All right. So that was awesome, guys. I think we covered it. We discussed, again, just to recap, we talked about the chronic homeless issue in Morris County. We talked about the work that Neighbors in Need, CPARP conducted, the research that was conducted in Morris County to really, really get answers and find out what the issues were. And then we talked about the program that Neighbors in Need we're putting together to combat those very issues. And then finally, we spoke with Aaliyah, a landlord, on some of the issues within the landlord network regarding COVID-19 and being a landlord. So that sums up our time. We thank you all for your time and coming and hearing us today. And again, we encourage you with any questions, comments, to reach out to us via Facebook and LinkedIn at Morris County Neighbors in Need, or on Instagram at Neighbors in Need Morris. Thank you and have a great afternoon. Happy New Year.